In Gaza, Egypt dispatches its 68th Zaid al-Azhar aid convoy as a catch-up vaccination drive targets children under 3. Casualties continue under sporadic strikes while remains exchanges proceed for identification. Meanwhile, in Lebanon, a civilian was killed in a drone strike near Bint Jbeil amid renewed raids across the south as the EU urges full compliance with the 2024 ceasefire and UNIFIL calls for restraint along the Blue Line. You're watching Qnews special coverage. I'm Mark Summers. Let's turn to the latest developments and the fallout shaping events now.
And then, of course, we have the host tonight, and I just want to thank you very much. It was a reason we chose Egypt, because you were very helpful, and very, very helpful. Everybody wanted to have this, but we really thought it was appropriate, and you are a great leader. And he's a fantastic man and a fantastic general, by the way. But he's a great president, and I want to thank Egypt and all of your representatives for treating us all so well. Thank you very much.
Israeli government spokesperson Shosh Bedrosian has said that today that Turkish soldiers will not be deployed to Gaza as part of a multinational force intended to replace the Israeli military in the enclave. The comments came amid reports that Turkey had issued arrest warrants for 37 Israeli officials, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and US pressure for Turkey's participation in the international security force. Egypt has dispatched its 68th Zaid al-Azhar from Egypt to Gaza aid convoy to Gaza. The convoy carried around 8,000 tons of supplies, including 280,000 food baskets, 185 tons of flour, over 2,700 tons of medical and relief goods, and more than 1,200 tons of petroleum products. The Zaid al-Azhar from Egypt to Gaza convoy, launched on July 27th, has consistently delivered thousands of tons of food, medical supplies and fuel to support the Palestinian population. The Palestinian Health Ministry has launched a 10-day catch-up vaccination campaign in Gaza, targeting children under 3, aiming to reach those who missed essential doses during the war. Conducted in coordination with UNRWA and the Palestinian Red Crescent Society and supported by UNICEF and the WHO, the campaign involves around 150 health centres across the Gaza Strip. It will unfold in 3 phases, each spaced a month apart. The ministry urged families to cooperate with medical teams, stressing that vaccination is the first and last line of defence against epidemics and diseases that threaten children's lives. The Palestinian Foreign Ministry has hailed Turkey's decision to issue arrest warrants for 37 Israeli officials over crimes committed in Gaza, describing it as a step in the right direction towards achieving justice. In a statement on X, the ministry called the move a victory for the principles of justice and a rejection of the policy of impunity that has long shielded Israel from accountability. According to Istanbul's prosecutor's office, those named include Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz, National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, and Army Chief Eyal Zamir. Palestine urged the international community to follow Turkey's lead and take concrete measures to hold Israeli leaders accountable. Now we're joined by Al Ahram managing editor from Cairo, Mohammed Ez El-Din. Thank you very much for being here with us. So what does this 68th Zaid al-Azhar aid convoy signal about Cairo's leverage on access and protection for these aid corridors? And what commitments are still needed from all sides?
Thank you for having me here on Q News. Of course, Egypt has is always going to deliver humanitarian aid in the largest amount possible, and they have insisted on delivering, especially with the Palestinians suffering in Gaza. Today, the 68th aid convoy has delivered aid ever since we started delivering aid again with Egyptian pressure and with also the mediators, Qatar, and under the of US. And so the aid will be delivered to make up for what the Palestinians have lost over the past few days, more than 280,000 convoy were food baskets were delivered today, and also tons of flour were delivered today. And so yeah, Egypt is making sure to live up to its role up to till the very end, and to make sure that the aid is delivered with the humanitarian crisis that is going on and the Palestinians are suffering from right now in the Gaza Strip. And yeah, of course, Egypt has a crucial role here in coordinating with all the international parties, and especially with the humanitarian case coming up and start and the humanitarian military U.S. Council starting to work, and also with the peacekeeping forces being formed soon. And so delivering aid is very, very important, and it is one of the points of the Sharm el-Sheikh agreement, and it guarantees that it will hold up and it implements Trump's peace plan in the Middle East and in the Gaza Strip.
And the Gaza Health Ministry has launched this catch-up vaccination drive for children under 3. Very important. Many of these children might have been vaccinated when they were very small babies, but they need these follow-up vaccinations desperately. What guarantees, perhaps security guarantees, are required to make sure that these vaccinations are effective and get across all districts?
Yeah, of course, there is a real crisis in the Gaza Strip when it comes to to the food and the water. There is a famine that is happening now, and this is very big actually. And the UN has recognized this, and so continuing the efforts of delivering humanitarian and medical aid. We know there are outbreaks, illness outbreaks, and thanks to Egypt's role and the mediators' role, the donors also, we are facing this famine and this nutritional crisis gradually. And also there are efforts to make sure that the delivery of humanitarian aid is unhindered. So yes, things are getting better and we are delivering more amounts, but still Israel doesn't allow much of the aid to be delivered, especially when it comes to blankets and tents. We know the winter is coming and the infrastructure is completely destroyed, the Palestinians' homes also. And so, yes, with winter upcoming, we need the basic necessities and more aid, and also preparing to deliver the aid either through the coordination council. But yeah, this council cannot turn into another Gaza organization. We need international monitoring and for the Egyptian presence, either in East and Northern Gaza, or through delivering aid through the Egyptian Rafah crossing to Al-Auga and Karam Abu Salam corridors. And up till now, the Israeli occupation forces they've been closing the Rafah crossing from the Palestinian side. It's been closed and it is still closed, and this hinders the ceasefire agreement and the peace agreement that they had. And there is also stalling when it comes to to ceasefire. They are violating the ceasefire, even though the Palestinian resistance have handed over the bodies of the detainees, but the Israeli side is still keep the airstrikes and the aggressions against the civilians under the pretext that they are actually attacking Hamas. And in the meeting, we know that tomorrow we have an upcoming meeting of Witkoff and Kushner to meet with Netanyahu to facilitate the measures about everything that has to do with the ceasefire agreement, and also to try to lessen the Israeli intervention through the civilian coordination council and the military one that will monitor the aid delivery process in northern and eastern Gaza.
Now, Turkey has issued the arrest warrants for 37 Israeli officials, including Netanyahu, over alleged crimes in Gaza. What does this mean diplomatically, especially when it comes to perhaps the United States? The United States have been pushing for Turkey to be part of this peacekeeping force, but they're not going to like this very much, are they?
Before commenting on this, Israel is being very hard when it comes to the Turkish side. Either the settling this or having diplomatic solutions, and Israel doesn't want any peacekeeping forces to ensure peace and stability in the Gaza Strip. And so, yeah, Israel is being so stubborn, and they want to eliminate Turkey because they have a similar stance to Egypt when it comes to the importance of delivering humanitarian aid and not have the occupation forces take control over the Gaza Strip. And yeah, what's called the yellow lines are actually new Israeli occupation lines, and they need to give this up and to allow the civilians to get out. And in addition, that these areas actually hinder the implementation of the agreement, and it prevents the civilians from going towards the north. And so, yes, Israel is very stubborn when it comes to Turkey, and there are strong Turkish statements when it comes to the situation in the Gaza Strip. And I think that this actually is very beneficial internationally, because it shows how stubborn Israel is and how they are being, whether it comes to allowing a delivery or helping the resistance in locating the remaining bodies. And so, yes, Israel is still insisting on a siege in the places that they have in the yellow line.
Okay,
and so
thank you very much indeed. I'm afraid I'm going to have to cut it off slightly early there, but thank you very much. From Cairo, Mohammed Azardine, who is the Al Ahram managing editor. Thank you very much for joining us here on Q News. Now, in southern Lebanon tonight, fresh Israeli air and drone strikes with casualties reported as Israel cites Hezbollah-linked targets and international actors press both sides to uphold the ceasefire under Resolution 1701.
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين. وضع شيء مرعب، شيء بخوف.
So to Lebanon, where a Lebanese civilian was killed after an Israeli drone targeted a vehicle on a road in southern Lebanon. The Lebanese Ministry of Public Health confirmed that the strike hit a civilian car in the Bint Jbeil area. The attack followed a series of Israeli drone flights and missile strikes across southern Lebanon, including in Tyre, Nabatea and Bint Jbeil. Now, for more on this, we are joined from Cairo by Mohammed Al-Yemeni, who is an international relations expert. Thank you very much indeed for being here with us. So what does today's drone strike on this civilian car signal about the state of the 2024 ceasefire and the current rules of engagement along Blue Line?
Of course, hello to everyone who's watching here, and we know that what's very important for Israel to pressure Hezbollah and to disarm them. This is very important to Israel, but there is a U.S. vision for a while now for the Middle East. And there are rules of engagement that the U.S. has put in the new administration with Trump as the leader, and so Israel is trying to fail all the operations that Hezbollah are working on, or all the efforts that they are putting to build their infrastructure in Lebanon. And they would pressure the Lebanese government or pressure them through the U.S. and gives them a time frame to disarm Hezbollah. But this was actually expected ever since the beginning of this, because they will not give up their arm. They don't want to give up their arms, and Israel is actually afraid of this. And so Netanyahu didn't go out of the red lines that the U.S. has put, but they see the arms as a threat. And let's talk here about the red lines. And the red lines here is to have strikes from both sides, and so there are no full-on confrontations between Israel and Hezbollah. And yeah, Hezbollah hasn't responded so far because they don't want to get into this war, but most of the monitors and people in the USA are talking about an awaited confrontation between Israel and Hezbollah. And this, as I said, this is upcoming and it is very much expected. So this is something here. And then the second thing is, after the agreement between U.S. President Donald Trump and Egyptian President Abdel Fattah Sisi, when it comes to Gaza and everything that has to do with Gaza, the ceasefire. And so yes, Netanyahu has to use some new tricks or new cards, and the first one here is the Lebanese Hezbollah. And so that the atmosphere in the Middle East is full of tension and instability and being uncentralized, even though the U.S. has lots of projects in the region and the Middle East, and these projects require stability and peace so that they can carry out these projects. And yes, as I can say here that the U.S. gave Netanyahu the green light when it comes to some of the strikes, and they also gave them a green, or played a role in not moving forward with the Hezbollah, like what happened in Hamas, with Hamas in Gaza for 2 years. But will this green light stop in the near future? Or because Netanyahu doesn't stop, and I've been listening to your guest about Witkoff and Kushner's visit tomorrow, and this is very important actually, not just for Gaza and a ceasefire or the detainees. It also has to do with holding Netanyahu accountable, having a trial or not. And so yes, Netanyahu wants to make up things and to also get what's left of the resistance, because he knows that Hezbollah, even if they took a step back a year ago, and they also have destroyed some of the infrastructure for Hezbollah, but yes, through the support that's given to Hezbollah, they know that they can rearm and get stronger through the support that they are receiving from countries like Iran, for example. So yes, Israel wants to take away Hezbollah's arms, and they want to take advantage of everything that they have done so far. Some of the targeting some officials and what they did in Syria and in the Gaza Strip with Hamas and everything. And so yes, they are trying to take advantage of everything that they have done so far and build on this foundation. And yeah, they just keep saying that Israel has an agenda that hasn't been implemented so far and it needs to be achieved in the near future. And the US is still supporting Israel, even if they release some statements saying otherwise. And actually, so far, the only good thing that they really did is the ceasefire in Gaza, and it is not because they love the Palestinians or the Gaza Strip, but actually because Israel was starting to get so isolated, and its even its allies have started to release very important statements. And so yes, not to get too far out of context, the confrontations or the conflicts now, will this actually provoke a full-on confrontation or a full-on conflict? Yeah, I think it will happen, because Israel thinks that after they are done with the resistance track, then Iran will be alone, and we will have the awaited confrontation between Israel and Iran.
Okay, you mentioned there US pressure. The EU has urged full compliance with UN Resolution 1701. Are there any practical steps that could be put into force to enforce 1701 this week? And who has the leverage to enforce them?
Unfortunately, I didn't hear the full question, but yeah, I heard you saying or talking about the European Union and some steps from them. And yeah, most of the forces here, the active forces here between Israel and Lebanon, they want stability. We saw a very important meeting from Egypt in the past days, and also some of other countries and the European Union as well, urging the two sides. But most of the key players in this case here know that the problem is actually the Israeli occupation forces and the conditions that they imposed on Hamas. They want to impose the same points or conditions on Hezbollah and to have them disarm. And so this is something. And then on the other hand, the US has had and still has a huge role in limiting a full-on broad confrontation between Hezbollah and Israel, because as I said before, the US has projects and aims and goals in the Middle East, and so they don't want to destroy this. And yes, the USA is the one capable of giving orders to Israel.
And UNIFIL reports multiple Israeli strikes across the south, as we've been reporting. What should an effective de-escalation mechanism look like? I was asking, how do we de-escalate? What would that look like? I believe you didn't hear me the first couple of times. I was asking Mr. Mohammed Al-Yemeni, what would an effective de-escalation mechanism look like?
the Israeli occupation forces don't want a de-escalation when they agree to a ceasefire with pressure from the U.S. administration for a U.S. vision, and after many consultations with the U.S. And this came after Israel's isolation, and yeah, they have responded and were kind of lenient to other stuff, but now things are different because now Netanyahu is trying to go back to the same old scenario and to go back to the region, or in other words, he wants to get more intense conflicts, because now after a half a year of the aggression on Gaza, we saw them working on so many levels, like in Iraq, Yemen, Lebanon, the Lebanese Hezbollah, and yeah, they were having operations and strikes in so many places. And so yes, because Netanyahu in 2026 there will be the Israeli elections, and Netanyahu wants to retain his position. And there are actually domestic divisions now in Israel, and everything that Israel has reached now, and all the conflicts, the internal conflict, is because of Netanyahu. And so yes, they don't want any de-escalation, and if there are talks about a de-escalation between Hezbollah and Israel, then it will be only with a U.S. intervention and U.S. decisions. And yeah, the U.S. needs to say that this de-escalation is uncalled for. Maybe Hezbollah will respond, but actually this response will not get us a full-on confrontation. And so yes, there is something that is called the art of the possible, and yeah, we don't know what's possible and what we will see.
Yeah, I mean, you did say earlier in the conversation that you were worried and thought it might spill over into a broader conflict. What are the indicators that we might look out for? What are the things we might look out for in the next 48 to 72 hours that might indicate that the situation is getting a lot worse? Yeah, I was just asking Mohammed al-Yemeni, you were saying before that you were worried that the situation now might spill over into a much broader conflict. What might we look for in the next few days, the next 48 to 72 hours, that might indicate that the situation was getting far worse?
From my opinion, I think that there is no indication that there are no indications for the escalation. Actually, all the indications here show that we will have a broad conflict soon, maybe today, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, or even with the start of 2026. But this silence here, this is actually the silence before the storm, and it is a storm that is very much wanted by Israel, Netanyahu, Ben Gvir, and Smotrich. I can never forget what's happening in the West Bank. I want to make it clear for the viewers that in the West Bank, things are very bad in the West Bank. They are detaining people, killing people, and destroying the land in the West Bank, and actually broadening their settlements. And what's more important here is that Israel here in this very critical time, with the leadership of Netanyahu, are trying so hard to use some of the available tricks to get back things to how they were before.
Well, thank you very much indeed. And we will, as you mentioned, in the situation in the West Bank is very bad indeed. And we'll continue to watch that here on Q News. Mohammed al-Yemeni, thank you very much for joining us here on the program. He's an international relations expert and a welcome guest. Thank you very much. From the cracked streets of southern Lebanon to the parched camps of Gaza, tonight's map is drawn in sirens and empty bowls. Until restraint opens corridors and aid reaches hands, we all keep watch. That brings us to the end of our special coverage for this hour. For more updates and stories, you can follow us 24 hours a day at Qnews EGY. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more news and analysis here on Qnews.